Here, let's make sure we go live. Here we go. There we go. The data is being sent. You guys know me. I wait until I see it. If I don't see it, it's no good to me. It looks like we're good. Let me just make sure. All right. It looks like we are on. Looks like everything is healthy. Guys, I have a new background. I don't know if you know. Well, I'm sure you notice. If you watch this show regularly, of course you notice. But I do have a new background, which is exciting. Still a work in progress. Still a work in progress. So bear with me. This is a work in progress. But I have a new screen. You see it behind me, and there's my name, and there's my name again. And first, before I bring in my guests, I got to shout out everyone who makes this show possible. But in addition to that, I got to give a quick special shout out here today. I got to give a shout out to my dear mom, who does not watch this show, I'm pretty sure. But my mom started graduate school today. She started her first day of graduate school. So congratulations to my mom, who started grad school today. She's doing it online. So she's not going to campus, which is good. It did be, dangerous for her to be at a college campus right now. But she has started graduate school. So congratulations, Mom. I congratulated her personally, obviously. I don't think she'll see this congratulations, but I'm happy for her. And check out my new screen. And shout out to everyone who makes this show possible. First of all, our friends over at ZT.com, ZHITEA.com. Their tea rules. Get it. Their tea's awesome. You can get their tea wholesale now because of the pandemic, and it's the best tea you'll ever have. I'm obsessed with this new Chinese white tea they have that has a little bit of peach going on in it. And I actually never really had hot white tea before. I knew white tea existed, but I never really had it like this. The leaves are big, and man, it is so good. So shout out to ZT.com. Check them out, ZHITEA.com. Also, our friends over at triageoil.com, TRIAGE oil.com. They make topical pain oil that has done wonders for my neck. Look what I can do now. I haven't been able to do that since 2013. Not kidding. I've not been able to do that since my car accident. I could do it, but it hurt. Now I can do it. And it's happened when I started using their pain oil. I'm not even embellishing. Check it out, triageoil.com. Show them some love. Also, if you're looking for the CBD oil you can ingest, I got you covered there too. Rare Naturals with an S, CBD.com. That's Rare Naturals, CBD.com. They make the type of CBD oil. It's all natural. It's great after an intensive workout. It's great if you feel a headache coming on. It helps with that. You can put a drop under your tongue. You can put it in your drink. I like to put it in seltzer water. That's a lot of fun for me. That's what I like to do. Rare Naturals, CBD.com. It gets better. Use the promo code Lucy at checkout. Lucy, Lucy. Use the promo code Lucy at checkout, and you get 30% off your order. How great is that? 30% off your order. Rare Naturals, CBD.com. All right, without further ado, I'm going to bring in my guest today. So you're not going to be able to see her. You're just going to be able to hear her because she's doing the audio. But she is one of my favorite Twitter accounts. I love following her on Twitter. She's hilarious. She cracks me up. She is a writer. She is an activist. And we found out we are both punk rockers and cat people. So can't wait to hang out in person one of these days once we get back on the road again. Please welcome to the show, Beth, a.k.a. Bourgeois Alien. Beth, how are you?
I'm doing great, Ron. I'm glad you can move your neck again.
Thank you. Yes, it's I wasn't able to for the longest time, but here I go.
Rooting for you. We've all been rooting for you. There's whole support groups around Will Ron move his neck again. You probably didn't know that, but it's true.
I'm
Putin,
glad to hear it.
Putin's in control of it. It's all Russia.
Yes.
It's a Putin-led support group for your neck. So yes, I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you.
So I want to start here, and I know we're getting a little bit of feedback, so I'll be careful with the mic situation here. But I wanted to start here, and Beth, I actually got this from you. Here is speaking of Russia. Here is our media, in particular CNN. They always do a great job, really focusing on the important things here. This is a real newscast, by the way, folks. This isn't fake. Here we go. You ready for this?
Okay,
Okay, before we go, I really want to ask you about what's going on in Portland, Oregon. Police say that they're investigating a homicide after a person was killed last night during violent clashes there. It comes, of course, just days after two people were killed in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Do you have any reason to believe that Russia is trying to fuel some of the civil unrest in these cities via social media or other methods?
That was real.
Oh, why? 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 Just, I keep looking at 2020 and I think, what? What next? What is why? Who buys this anymore? Who watches CNN and thinks that's a normal question to ask in this situation? Who?
Do you think at this point I don't know what the right word is. Is it an obsession? Is it is it just straight up intentional propaganda at this point?
That's a good question. Given the past 4 years, let's rewind for a second and think about right after 2016 and the Clinton campaign immediately shifting blame to the loss of Russia. And I remember, what was the book called? Was it called Shattered? Was that
Shattered?
Yeah. And I remember there was a part in the book where Robbie Mook and the people on the Hillary campaign immediately shifted the narrative to Russia.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's all right there.
It's all right there. And so, when I look at what's going on now and how over the top it is, and I know it's a nuanced conversation, and I know that, and which we're not going to get into right now, but I can't, as a rational human being, look at that question and think that's a valid or in good faith. Why would you bring Russia into the riots right now?
Yeah, I think it is intentional, and it is just such a bad faith question because we have a systemic disease going on with police brutality, and it is systemic, and it has been going on for hundreds of years, really, when you think about it, and it has just come to a head. And to blame Russia's activity on social media on it, that is blinded by your ivory tower to the nth degree. You really think, I don't know why anyone else is upset unless they just saw some Russian memes that are telling them to be upset. I can't understand why a bunch of people want to defend their water at Standing Rock. I can't understand why a bunch of people want to defend their land and water. I can't understand why a bunch of people want police to stop systemically murdering Black people. I don't get what the problem is. It must be Russia. That is beyond insane.
Do you remember when the Yellow Vest protest started in France and Neera Tanden immediately put out a tweet that the protests in France were backed by Russia? Do you remember that?
I don't remember that specific tweet, but I want to go on the record as saying there is no way Neera Tanden hasn't blocked you.
Oh, honey, she blocked me. Oh, my goodness. She blocked me the day I got in an argument with Joy Reid. I don't know if you remember that. It was a long time ago.
I do remember that.
Yeah, and a few outlets did. Jimmy Dore actually did a whole thing on it, and a few articles were written about it. It was bananas. But yeah, so I asked Joy Reid not to call Bernie supporters and people on the left the alt left. And this started an entire shitstorm of Joy Reid coming after me, and and Neera Tanden, of course, Neera Tanden jumped in and, talked about my white privilege, et cetera, et cetera. And I wasn't even, it's funny because back then I wasn't even I don't know, I wouldn't say angry. It's just that I've taken a lot of filters off. I used to try and be so diplomatic, and I don't have it in me as much as I used to, obviously. And yeah, she blocked me immediately. And and her goon squad has been coming after me for years. All of her, anybody who is not aware that Neera Tanden has a troll farm on Twitter is, very gullible.
Correct record.
Yeah. And the guy, Captain America, he was on, when I saw Kamala Harris's husband in a tweet with that guy, I don't think I mean, nothing should shock me anymore. Absolutely nothing. But to see Kamala Harris's husband tweeting out a picture of himself with the king of the K-Hive and thanking him for their very honorable support was just, salt in the wound, Ron, salt in the wound. So,
well,
yeah.
I think what you get at, and this is kind of important here, is that it gets to the point where, I mean, the question that we just watched, that just gets into the line where it's enough that you're insulting the general public's intelligence by trying to make these insanely bogus connections, which is just pure by the book propaganda. But I think it's insulting to a new level because it's, I mean, to marginalize the civil unrest that is justified to just, oh, they're just being manipulated by Russia. I mean, that is, I would argue like that is condescending to the nth degree. And I think you could go, I don't think it's unfair to say it's completely racist too. Do you agree?
I agree. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get off track. Absolutely. But the thing is, if you've been paying attention for a while now, you've seen this line of attack with the Russia and the Russia scapegoating for so long now that I guess I get to the point where I don't know how much outright outrage and disgust I have in me for corporate media and the establishment, and all of their tentacles that they keep doing this. It's over and over and over again. And yes, it's racist and all of the people involved in this. I don't know how they live with themselves. I know it's a big fat paycheck. I mean, I get it. It's money. It's always money. But
one mimosa at a time, Beth.
Of course, the money helps. They like money. But yes, it's horrendous to look at what's going on in the United States, that during a pandemic, I mean, I almost feel like a broken record at this point. And I know that your listeners and people that would be interested in what we're talking about know that it's systemic racism forever in this country. And right now we're at a boiling point, obviously during a pandemic when Congress and the government decides to go on vacation, when people don't have health care, people don't have money to feed their family. People are pissed off, and rightfully so. And neither party is addressing what social programs need to be enacted to solve any of this. So of course it's going to get worse. And of course they're going to keep blaming Russia. And, and that's why I think last night, and I'm so proud of you and so happy that you spoke last night, we have to start looking at a really viable third party. And that's, I can't, I feel physically sick thinking about voting for Joe Biden. Like I really do. I go back and forth, and I'm very honest on Twitter about that. I go back and forth with this issue. But I can't listen. Oh my God, Chris Hedges last night, right? Chris Hedges, what an argument was that? How good of an argument was that about not voting for Biden? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And for anyone who's not sure what we're referring to, we're talking about the People's Convention, which happened yesterday. It was a fun time. And yeah, Chris Hedges, he had I thought everyone really brought it. I mean, I thought everyone had an amazing speech, and there were different ideas emphasized, and I thought people kind of laid out where they were coming from really well.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone did an amazing job. And I guess I'm just highlighting Chris Hedges because he laid it out so eloquently and systematically why this incessantly capitulating to voting in this corrupt duopoly isn't getting us anywhere. And I don't looking at, I mean, my God, Biden's advisors talking about how we have to keep doing austerity measures after he's elected, and backing up on fossil fuel industry donations, and obviously saying there's no way he would pass Medicare for all, even if it came to his desk, he would veto it. I don't know what the hell I'm voting for with this party. Why bother? I know Trump. I get it. I get he's a fascist. I get that it's horrendous, but I don't see how Biden is an answer at this point. What are your thoughts, Ron? Where are you? I want to hear really your deeper thoughts about this.
I've never thought about this before.
I know you haven't.
I
know.
Just occasionally.
I know for you.
An election's happening.
I know you're usually, for you, it's all about cats and music. I get it, and I don't want to make your podcast political. I know that you're uncomfortable. I know you're uncomfortable with that, Ron. For you, it's all about neck exercises and cats.
Here I go.
I know Ron's doing his neck exercises, but if you could just this once indulge me, your friend Beth, Twitter Beth, and tell me your deeper thoughts about voting for Biden, if you're comfortable.
I'm right. I'm in the same place as you philosophically. I think I think Chris Hedges nailed it, and I think he really summarized where people's concerns are. And I'm not going to put it as eloquently as he did, but it's kind of like, is Trump horrible to the nth degree? Yeah, absolutely. But here's the problem. And I think this is kind of like my assessment of what Chris Hedges was saying and how I feel and how so many people feel. We're at a point where we really need a transformational presidency. And it's not a matter of, just wanting to get everything you want. It's not a matter of being an idealist or a purist. It's a matter of, hey, the climate's collapsing. Hey, we've reached a point of no return on so many issues. Hey, people are dying without healthcare. Hey, we realize that the United States is a complete banana republic corporate coup that has turned its back on people during a pandemic. It's not Republican versus Democrat. It's us versus the oligarchy. And the oligarchy bought both sides. This is a systemic disease. We need a transformational presidency, and neither candidate is offering it. So I'm certainly not going to voter shame anybody. I get it. Whatever you decide to do, I get where you're coming from. I live in California, so I'm not going to vote for either member of the duopoly. I get the struggle people in a swing state face. I understand, and I don't judge. I've gotten emails of people, what should I do? And I'm like, I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. If you want somebody to wag their finger at you and tell you to vote for Biden or tell you to vote however, I'm not going to do that. I'm just not. You got to make your own judgment call. And whatever that judgment call is, I get it. Because, I think that when we voter shame, that's really just doing what the oligarchy wants. It really is. Because, blaming voters instead of blaming the system, I think you're missing the mark.
I remember.
Sorry.
Oh, can you hear me?
I went to unmute you, and then I know we're getting a little feedback, but then I accidentally muted you. I'm sorry.
I told you, Ron, muting me is always the right choice. I don't know if I have to keep repeating it, I will. But what I wanted to add to what you were saying is, I remember in 2008, and I was volunteering for Obama, and I remember the narrative often around healthcare was, we don't have the public support. When we get the public support, and that's when we're really going to fight. And then you look at the polls right now, and you look at the fact that 89% of Democrats support Medicare for all, and so, I think it's 69% of voters overall support Medicare for all. Yep. And we're still being fed this lie that it's about public support and about getting there. And if you pay attention just a little bit, if you pull back the veneer just a little bit and allow yourself to realize the manipulation and the nonsense and the absolute, inability for either party to give a damn about what their base wants. I mean, let's face it. I mean, say what you will about Republicans, but of course, it's a Tea Party, isn't it? They're Koch brothers backed. So obviously, they've manipulated in that right-wing faction of their base into clearly wanting to, stay in line. I don't know how to explain it, how to verbalize it. But when you look at something like the Tea Party, I don't think you can really, compare that to what the left is fighting for. And I'm sorry, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but I don't even think it's fair to say this is a leftist issue when you look at something like Medicare for all, and it does poll at 89% among Democrats and 69% overall. That's technically, now that's a centrist issue because it's in the center.
I think everyone, regardless of their political ideology, wants to go see the doctor when they're sick, regardless of how much money they have. I mean, I don't know. Do you think so?
Yeah, I do think that most people would be able to like to see a doctor, even though corporate media would like to paint us as the crazy radical left. And, as someone, I've told you, I lived in Europe for many years. The Democratic or the quote unquote far left, and I'm not talking about the entire spectrum because there is a spectrum, but I'm talking about someone like myself who's would really like to see our country have Medicare for all and free college and these things that in much of the developed world are just taken for granted. That there's nothing radical about it. There's nothing radical about it. And that is what infuriates me. And going back to the whole Russia narrative, that's the entire thing. It's like the corporate media wants to paint everything we're fighting for is crazy and, we're being manipulated by. I remember during the 2016 primary and this time that there was so often you would hear, whether it was an MSNBC pundit or, the countless blue check morons on Twitter talking about, I mean, come on, that we were being manipulated by Russia to fight for these crazy ideas like Medicare for all.
You know what I said to that when it initially came out? I said, you know what? We are being manipulated by Russia to some extent. We're being manipulated by Russia and Canada and England and France and Italy and Germany, because all these other countries, they have the type of healthcare system. In Australia, they have a healthcare system where no one goes bankrupt because of medical bills. So you're right. We're being manipulated by all of them because we see the healthcare they have and we realize there's no reason we can't do that here.
And now I'm kicking myself that I didn't say that. That's brilliant. That's really good. Yeah, we are being manipulated by Russia. They can see a doctor, It's crazy. Those crazy leftists wanting you not to die. God, we're so evil, Ron. We are the worst people. I want you to get an education. I want you to be able to, I want you to have a living wage. And you know what? I want you to have a home. I know.
Ooh,
I am
that's
evil.
Really radical.
That's evil. That's why I keep getting called a witch on Twitter, because I'm so uniquely evil. You know what I'd also like? I'd like for your kids to be able to eat. I know.
Look at you.
I know.
That's just what are you just riding around on your broom, like dropping food to people and saying get rid of high tuition, giving people homes?
I know. I'm literally on my broom right now. That's why I didn't want to be on camera today. It wasn't about the construction in my home. It wasn't. And now I feel like I can be honest with you. It's because I'm literally in front of a cauldron on a broom. So, but I do what I do. This is how I get by being a witch. And
someone's got to be an evil witch who just wants people to have healthcare.
And because I'm a compassionate giver, I decided to be that person. I stepped up and I am the witch. Witchy woman.
So I want to go here next. Yeah, this is a story in my neck of the woods in California, which is sometimes people think that California is some progressive utopia. And here's the reality, folks. I don't think there is a progressive utopia in the United States. I'm pretty sure there's not. I've lived in the Midwest. I've lived in the South. I've lived in the Northwest. I live in Southern California. We don't really have a progressive utopia. Now, full disclaimer, I've never lived in Eugene, Oregon. But as far as I know, there's no progressive utopia in the United States. And here's something that's going on right here in California. This is from the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Shame on Anthony Rendon and Assembly Dems for their collective inaction on starting to close the digital divide. SB 1130 would help millions who lack sufficient broadband connections during the pandemic. So they basically tabled any efforts to start expanding broadband in California when people are without broadband. You guys know that broadband is a topic I talk about a lot on this show. And we talked about that specific, for instance, in Philadelphia, where Comcast had a monopoly and in this area of Philadelphia, and they wanted them to have hotspots so that kids could go to school because we rely on online right now. more so than ever before because of the pandemic. And here they are in California, shelving the digital divide at a time where it's needed the most. Beth, what are your thoughts?
On broadband? On what's... So you said, first, let me go back to your first point, that there are no progressive utopias in America.
Yeah,
and
go for it.
Okay, well, have you heard of a little place called Texas?
I have.
Well, there you go. Cowboys. That's your progressive utopia right there. Actually, now that I'm thinking about Texas, I'm thinking about Austin, which actually could be considered a progressive utopia.
They have
but
a Green New Deal.
Yeah, well, yeah, is actually I've lived all over, like you, I've lived all over the United States, and I've lived in Chicago, I've lived in Atlanta, although I have not lived on the West Coast. I've not lived on the West Coast. Yeah, well, that's one place I need to go, but apparently you're telling me it sucks there too, so fuck it. Anyway,
this is not a progressive utopia.
No, I'm just being facetious, but yeah, no, I have found that any place I've lived, and I've lived in Europe too, and when I foolishly thought when I lived in the United States, then when I lived in Europe, that would be like a completely different, although, you know, obviously all of Europe is different. I lived in Greece and it was a whole different set of issues, but no, there's no progressive utopia. The town I'm in is a liberal little hotspot in Florida, but even here, it's just, you know, a smaller group of folks that are forward thinking. But as far as California and the broadband issue, that is horrendous. And I remember following a similar story, and I think I was following it through you, that either the head of the Democratic Party in California, help me out. It was that there was somebody who was running who was really progressive, and they completely screwed this person over. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Was it the chairman?
Every single election.
Oh, that happened. You're like, Beth, you have to be more specific.
A little more specific than that.
No, it was like a woman who was running, and then they put in the corporate candidate. It was a guy. Fuck it, I don't remember. I just know that when I heard that,
What I think you might be thinking of. First of all, people in the chat, are you hearing the feedback when Beth is not muted and I'm talking? Because maybe it's just coming into my headphones and it's not actually going out.
Ron, have you considered you're hallucinating?
I always consider that, and I always ask myself, I'm like, what did I have for breakfast?
Could this possibly be an acid? Okay, could this possibly be an acid flashback, Ron?
Potentially, but the chat is saying that they too hear the feedback. So we're gonna have to do that thing where like I mute you and we have to just not talk at the same time. But what I think you might be thinking of is Anthony Rendon. That name might sound familiar to you because he was the same person who stabbed single-payer healthcare in the back in California. We had a single-payer bill. He stabbed it in the back, and now he's stabbing another bill in the back to address the digital divide and to increase broadband. So this guy, and by the way, he is a Democrat. We have a complete Democrat stronghold in California. We have a Democratic governor. And yet you have Democrats stabbing these things in the back. And they at one point tried to stab our net neutrality bill in the back. There was so much public outcry, they weren't able to get away with it. And we got a good net neutrality bill through that Jerry Brown signed before he left office. But they tried to even water that down and they failed. So yeah, this is, you'd think progressive policies would be easier when you have a Democratic majority. Nope, it ain't.
Yeah, and that's why I actually have kept up a little bit with California politics, and that's what is so depressing, is that it is supposed to be a lefty, I don't like to use the word liberal anymore, but it's supposed to be a progressive hotspot in the United States. And you see that the Democratic Party has the entire left or progressives, whatever you want to call it, by the balls out there. And that is why, going back to the whole Chris Hedges thing, the whole discussion we're having, really, I don't know what we can get done with these ghouls in charge. And, California should absolutely have Medicare for all. And It's the Democratic Party that's stopping it, and the Democratic Party that's stopping the broadband. So what can possibly be done through this structure?
That's the question. That's the big question. And that's why, I mean, that's one of the many reasons why I was happy to attend yesterday, because, I feel like electoral politics is just one tool in the kit of change. And honestly, I think it is often an over-amplified tool. I think we spend too much time on electoral politics, and I'm guilty of this myself. I'm really guilty of this myself in my show. I try to talk a lot about protests and direct action, and we have a direct action thing coming up here. But, as far as the electoral politics part of the toolkit, I think the only way to make that better is with a new party and with a real challenge to the duopoly. And I feel like the time is now. When you kind of look at other times it's happened throughout history, it's been a long time. It's pretty much been since the 1800s. But history does repeat itself eventually. And I say, if not now, when? It's time to build a real party of the people, for the people. And we got to try, because it just ain't working through the duopoly. We've reached a point where John Kasich and Colin Powell are considered part of the alternative to the conservative option. Beth, could you imagine that happening in any other similar democratic experiment in the world, or anything close to it for that matter?
Oh, and I remember the Bush years very well. I lived in Greece during the Bush years. And it got to a point where whenever I would meet, and I had, friends from all over Europe, whenever they would meet me, the first thing they would say to me is, let me tell you why your government is a piece of shit. And all I could sit there and do was, yeah, I agree. I completely agree. They didn't know where I was coming from, if I was a Bush supporter or where I was on the political spectrum. But when they found out that I was in agreement with everything they said, they always felt a lot more comfortable. But yeah, so to see Democrats now embrace the war criminals, and to embrace Bush, and to embrace Colin Powell and John Kasich to a lesser extent, but it's like, excuse me for saying something that's not original at all, but it's like you're taking crazy pills. What the I can't even wrap my head around it. And so
you can say fuck on this show.
Okay, fuck. I said it. Wow, I feel so. It's like I have to get that out every so often, or I'll die. But anyway, yeah, it's nuts. And the fact that, they're painting Trump as uniquely evil, and that's why they can embrace these Republicans, is such an epic scam. It's such a fuck you to the American voter across the spectrum. That the game, it seems to me, is that the Republican Party is just inching closer and closer to, like you said last night, literally electing the hologram of Mussolini. That, we probably will have, Trump Jr. as a Democratic Party, candidate in 20 years from now. And I know that sounds hyperbolic, but really, I could imagine it happening. Could you? I could.
Well, you know what's crazy? I said, first of all, thank you for the callback. I really appreciate that a lot. But also, I said this on a more centrist show a little while ago, and kind of getting on the theme you're getting at, where it's like, look, when we've seen it happen, like from Reagan till now, when you keep like just settling for these terrible candidates, and both parties get more and more corporate because they're owned by the same people. We just shift further and further to the right, to the point where it is now just absolutely absurd. Any situation where John Kasich isn't the most conservative option, that's not any type of democratic experiment. That is an authoritarian theocracy. That's what we live in. We live in an authoritarian theocracy. And I remember I said on this more centrist show, I was like, what is it going to get to? When's it going to stop? Is it going to stop at the point where a Democrat looks like Donald Trump and a Republican is a literal neo-Nazi? They rolled their eyes at me. What has happened since then? This was in about 2017. We had this conversation. What's happened since then? I'll tell you. Mike Bloomberg ran as a Democrat. Someone explained to me the difference between him and Donald Trump politically. I'll wait. Mike Bloomberg ran as a Democrat. Oh, and what happened over in Illinois? An open neo-Nazi ran for Congress.
Yes. And the thing is, going back to what you were saying about having a toolbox for all of for everything for political change in this country. You're voting, electoral politics is just one tiny thing. And I've been, one thing I do, I love history, and I go back and try and read or watch documentaries and just kind of try and center myself in the moment. And I've been revisiting a lot of MLK's actions, particularly in the last few years of his life. And excuse me, it's amazing to me how many people truly don't realize when he was murdered, he was organizing a general strike. Most people don't know that.
Yeah.
He was in the midst of trying to unite poor Americans of all colors, of the working class, like the Rainbow Coalition with Fred Hampton. And it's, I can't blame people. I know that they don't teach this in history classes. It's by design. They don't want a truly educated populace who would understand, historically the labor movements, what's happened. They certainly don't talk about Eugene Debs. And so when I see, like you were saying on this liberal show you were on, that they rolled their eyes at you, what's so, and I don't want to say infuriating anymore, but what's so depressing, I think, is that every 4 years, for me, politics and activism never stops. You're always doing something. You're always talking about something. You're always trying to educate your friends and family and, people you interact with. And the almost incessant need to hold on to this narrative, and to every 4 years, these folks scream about voting for the lesser of two evils. And it seems like I'm talking about a lot about the, kind of centrist Democrat neolibs. They come on, they go onto social media and they scream, vote for the lesser of two evils. You try and talk to people and have a conversation, educate them about this moment in history. And it's almost impossible to get through to people who have allowed themselves to be stuck in this mindset. And so when I talk to people about, a general strike or something that really needs to be done, and again, Chris Hedges mentioned this in his talk last night about civil unrest, and the catalyst for change will be, people in the streets demanding it. And so I think a general strike or something in that vein is also something we need to think about, along with starting a third party. I think we have to use every tool in the toolbox, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm sorry, I kind of rambled on there, but I think we have to use everything at our fingertips, because it's going to be a long, hard battle to get anything that we really need in this country.
I agree with you 110%. And I tweeted this out not too long ago. I don't like stands, like I think it's wrong to stand for a politician. It's, you should criticize them when it's worthy. But the one thing I stand for, I stand for two things, STAN. I stand for love. I think love's pretty dope. I think love's great. It's the only thing I believe in. It's the only thing I'll ever believe in. And I stand for a general strike. In my opinion, a general strike, we need it. I'm for it. I stand for it.
All right, my man Ron, standing for the general strike and love. Honestly, I think, again, maybe we're related, because those are literally the only two things I think I stand for. Oh, no, cats. Cats, Ron. You don't stand cats?
No, I do.
Okay, well, then that's three things. I got you. You see, you lied, didn't you? You said you only stand two things, but you stand three things, because I think we know how you feel about cats. But yeah, no, seriously, we've got to do a general strike. And it seems like, and how gross was it that Obama came in and put his foot down with the NBA thing? Wow. Is Obama the greatest political disappointment in my lifetime? Man, I feel like a sucker. I can't tell you how many hours I went from door to door with my son in a stroller knocking for Obama.
Beth, I guarantee you I gave him the benefit of the doubt longer than you did, and there's the video footage to prove it. So, I should be way more embarrassed than almost everyone. I gave him the benefit of the doubt until the very end. I even gave Michelle the benefit of the doubt, and holy shit, was I wrong.
No, I mean, we were all wrong. I mean, it's so fun. I have so many lovely people and on Twitter saying, I feel so dumb. I was so stupid. And all I can say to people is, yeah, we all got sucked into it. And it's nobody's fault. It's this system. We're being manipulated by the corporate media. We're being manipulated by the party that we thought, I grew up thinking the Democratic Party was on my side. My mom, I grew up Catholic, and
so did I.
All right, my man. But the only pictures on my wall at home, where, in our dining room was like the Pope and John Kennedy, like that. My mom was she volunteered for Kennedy. And so I grew up really hearing in my home, the Democrats are on the side of the worker. The Democrats care about us. The Republicans are, they're the party of the rich and corporate interests, blah, blah, blah. And when you realize, and for me, it was somewhere around 2010, realizing, oh my God, we're being lied to, And I would talk to my friends, and a lot of them, were like, they would not hear it. I'd say, wait a second, but Obama, the Citibank chose his cabinet. He didn't really push for a public option. There are some real red flags here, and we have to talk about this. And it's hard to, I guess, come out of I don't want to say political coma, but when you start to have a political awakening, you can never go back to sleep. And and I feel like I'm continuing. Every time I think I'm pretty aware of what's going on, I realize I'm still learning, and I still have so much to grapple with and to understand. And it goes back to the Greeks, Ron. I know that I know nothing. I know that I know nothing, because every time I think I'm sure of something, I'm not. So, boom.
That's a mic drop moment. That is a mic drop moment. So Beth, which, by the way, if you guys notice, I'm muting Beth because whenever I talk when she's not muted, there's a big echo. Because we got some audio things. So that's why I'm doing it. But there's one more story that I really want to do with you, Beth, because you have lived abroad, and you've lived all over the country as well. And I found this online, and I thought it was really interesting, and I thought you'd be a really, really fun person to talk about it with. So here's an essay. We don't know how to warn you any harder. America is dying. I'm going to read a little bit of this, and then we're going to talk about it. We survivors of authoritarianism have a message America needs to hear. This is exactly how it's happening. And it's happening here. Right about now, something terrible is happening in America. Society is one tiny step away from the final collapse of democracy at the hands of a true authoritarian and its fanatics. Meanwhile, America's silent majority is still slumbering at the depth and gravity of the threat. I know that strikes many of you as somehow wrong, so let me challenge you. How much experience do you really have with authoritarianism? Any? If you're a quote-unquote real American, you have precisely none. Take it from us survivors and scholars of authoritarianism. This is exactly how it happens. The situation could not be any worse. The odds are now very much against American democracy surviving. Do you think that's accurate?
Okay, well, I would say this. I'm not sure where the slant is in this article. Is it saying, I assume what they're saying is because Trump is in office, that's what I'm hearing from this essay is that their main point is that because Trump is in office, this is happening. Is that right?
So the whole thing is like an 11-minute read, so we're not going to go through the whole thing. But I think they're saying they're making more of a societal statement. Like they're kind of like putting all the pieces together, where Trump combined with the surveillance state that we have right now, combined with the complete militarization to unseen levels. I think they're kind of combining everything in our contemporary moment, and they're saying this is how it happens. I mean, I don't know if they're entertaining the idea that it's just magically going to go away if Trump goes away. I wish that were the case. But I think they're basically saying this is how these things go. And America is dying. And I think to an extent, they're correct.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that. I do think that's correct, but I would have to read the entire essay to see if their analysis of the situation is correct. Because, yeah, overall, I think that's accurate. However, if the essay doesn't go into the systemic problem which led us here, then it has to be nuanced. Because, I mean, if we're gonna compare America, for example, going into fascism and the authoritarian state, and if we looked, for example, at 1930s Germany, we know, looking back, that Germans were economically in the worst point they had ever been in, or in that era. And until we address why Americans are so desperate, what you can't simply pin it on Trump being in office and a decline into authoritarianism without looking at our media, which feeds into it. We don't even have a free and fair and open media in this country. Most people are still consuming CNN and MSNBC, and younger people are turning towards independent media, and I think and it's a good trend for sure, but so many folks are listening. Like, we can go back to the CNN story we started at the beginning with, is Russia behind elevating the tensions in America? So it's very hard, I think, for Americans to even know what's accurate, what news is accurate, who to listen to, and which is another sign that you're following into authoritarianism. So yeah, I believe what you read me is true, but I would like to hear what their analysis is of why.
Right. And I didn't my reason for bringing it in wasn't necessarily to just dissect like their particular take on it, but rather to just ask ourselves that question. Like, ask ourselves, like, well, do we think America's dying? The America that we know is dying. And, my theme on it, my take on it is, I would say, yeah, it is, but that doesn't, the one glimmer of hope that I have is that I would say that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. We were in many ways driving off a cliff, and now the car broke down. So it's really shitty that the car is broken down, but we're not driving off the cliff as much, and we have a chance to maybe fix the car and drive in a better direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I absolutely do. And that is why, I'm trying
to believe in cars.
That's right. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And, I don't really want America to go on in the way it has been. For the past 40 years, we've seen all of these issues that have, accumulated and culminated into this Trump presidency. It's been going on for so long. And I think it's, to use your analogy, I think it's time to take out the engine and, put on some solar panels, put in an electric engine, get rid of that old clunker, and just let's start over, and you're right. I'm actually trying to find ways to stay positive right now. And I think a lot of that is going to come from, as hard as it is, trying to keep educating our fellow citizens, keep talking to people across all political spectrums. And there's going to be a lot of people who are too far gone and people you can't reach, but there's strength in numbers. And I think, there are so many people that are genuinely just confused and don't have the information. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, because where I get my optimism is, first of all, in communities. We can all do what we can to take back our communities. That's why I'm just saying, look, if we all get involved in our backyard, we form alliances, we form, kind of strategies to kind of take back our communities, to kind of see the types of policies we want in our own backyards. We can do Green New Deals one city at a time if we freaking have to. And at the end of the day, people are going to bicker through November about, what the lesser evil is and this and that. In my opinion, it's way more constructive to instead focus on, well, we have an inevitable evil coming. We're not going to have an ally in the White House no matter what. So let's just focus on how to combat that and how to build for a better tomorrow and what we can do in the meantime, instead of just focusing on the fact that, well, we're not going to have an ally in the White House no matter what. I mean, make whatever moral judgment call you're going to make. That's your choice. But to me, it's like, well, let's start focusing on our backyard, because if we all do something in our backyard, we'll look at a different country really, really quickly. They never tell you that, though. They never tell you that the most powerful vote you have is in your neighborhood. That's the most powerful vote you have. I'm not going to say corruption doesn't happen in local politics. Of course it does. But it's way more transparent, comparatively speaking. They don't tell you that the power that you have is when you show up at a protest, when you strike. That's the power that you have. They don't tell you any of those things because they don't really want you to know that.
Well, I think our whole system is set up for people to be politically apathetic. So you're right. They don't tell us that. And, look at the voter turnout in America. It's working, suppressing the vote and making people do feel powerless to change anything. And that's by design. And yeah, all politics, I don't like to go to the generalization that all politics is local, because I think that oversimplifies it. But yeah, you have to get involved. You have to get involved locally. And I remember the bumper sticker, act locally, think globally. And I think that still rings true. That's really, yeah, you have to have a strong support network, both locally and, through social media. Now we do, for all of its ills, one wonderful thing is that it has allowed so many people to connect and to give each other support and, share ideas, what's worked in their local communities, what they're doing, so there are all of these tools that didn't even exist, 15, 20 years ago for us.
Absolutely. I forgot to mute you. we got an obstacle today, folks. We got an obstacle today. So Beth, I wanted to talk a little bit about some more kind of happy fun time things. So let's go to one of the things I think we covered all the things we stand for. We covered love. We covered general strike. So we got to get to the third thing on that list now before we dismount, and that is cats. So tell me about, do you have a cat? Do you have cats plural? What is your cat situation? My cat situation is I have Lucy, who of course has her own comic with Lucy and Ron. But what is your cat situation?
Well, Ron, I'm proud to say that I took a cat across the Atlantic Ocean from Greece.
Yes.
Yes. My cat Oscar flew from Athens, Greece to Florida. Now, you tell me if you've ever heard of a more international cat of mystery than Oscar the cat, who, by the way, took down John Delaney in the Democratic primary.
I remember that. Yes, that was you. You posted that thing. It was so fun dunking on that guy on Twitter because he invested so much money in his campaign, but yet just random people on Twitter, you, me, we could hijack any thread of his that we wanted. And it was hysterical. And I remember when you did that, you were like, my cat is going to get more likes than John Delaney. And of course your cat did. I was one of those likes and retweets. And wow, that guy. He was the most pathetic candidate in that batch of candidates, that's the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the barrel. That is like, he was the fungus of fungus on the bottom of a barrel in a toxic waste dump. When you think about the disease that is our politics, and he was the worst of the worst. I guess, you just want to hide behind dollar bills at this point if you're that guy.
Oscar, who would you want to vote for? Oscar the cat, international cat, or a human thumb? Who do you want to vote for? Oscar had a solid platform. He wanted to legalize catnip. Okay. He was going to legalize catnip. So
do you think it should be now? Lucy, my cat, is she's running on Vet Care for All and Cat Treats for All. And you're saying that Oscar really wants to go further with the legalization of catnip. Are we maybe seeing a joint ticket here?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't think it would be unfair to say that the People's Convention is actually going to is it going to be the vehicle for Lucy Oscar 2024.
I am so in.
Are you kidding? I have already gotten all the bumper stickers made. The t-shirts are in the works. It's the Lucy Oscar party that, I mean, come on. We know Americans. Americans love cats. We don't think that we could get them on the ticket. Come on. Don't be naive, Ron. This is happening.
I'm for it. I mean, Lucy, I actually do sell these shirts on the road, which someday we're going to be able to do that again. But I sell a shirt with a cat on it that says single payer meow.
That is perfect. And I need to get that. That's freaking awesome. Yes. And by the way, I have to tell you, I also have two other cats, Meep, who is my gray cat, and Schmoody.
That's adorable.
Well, yeah. My family couldn't think of a name, so we just kind of landed on that.
How old are your cats?
My cat, well, Oscar's about 16 now. He's 15, and Meep is 10, and Schmoody is 6. How about your cats?
Lucy is 14. I've had her since college.
Lucy. I can't wait for her to be the president.
I think she's going to be a good president. I mean, she's a very diplomatic cat. She's a very sweet cat, but she also really takes zero shit. Like, I see her just like, no, I'm not taking that meeting with the CIA. I don't care what the intelligence agencies have to say. We are ending the wars now because there's no reason for them. Or excuse me, we are ending the wars, meow, because there is no reason for them. Let's invest the money back home. And by the way, I think she'll also be a pretty big proponent of rent control combined with the UBI, because she's like, why can't people be home with their cats more often? Why do we have jobs? I'm not for that. I want people to be home with their cats.
And I think it's great that Lucy's going to be the take charge top of the ticket, because I can tell you right now, Oscar would be more of a, I'm trying to think of a good vice president analogy. Who was the first Bush? What was his, Oscar would be like a Dan Quayle. I don't know if you remember anything about Dan Quayle, but he was a very sleepy man. And I think Oscar would just, he would sit back, let Lucy do her thing. God forbid if anything happened to Lucy and Oscar had to take over, because honestly, I think he's a little lazy. I don't think he'd be the best president. But, does anyone really care about the vice president? Looking at you, Kamala. Yeah, I said it, K-Hive. Nobody gives a damn about Kamala and her fucking no delegates. Come on. K-Hive. Fuck off. Sorry. You said I fuck, and then I said it a lot, and now I feel bad.
Boom! That's the mic drop. Lucy Oscar 2020. Let's go to some super chats here. Jesus, excuse me. I'm running to legalize drugs. Ron Placone. Thank you. That's a callback from part of my set yesterday at the People's Convention, which, by the way, if you missed that, I'm going to be dropping my set on this channel. So if you didn't catch my set at the People's Convention, I'll be dropping it on this channel shortly. Thank you very much for that, Jesus. Thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. I appreciate it. DC, the Russiagate narrative was born the weekend of the 2016 DNC, immediately after the WikiLeaks DNC email dump. Do the math. I'm with you, DC. Sparky, I wonder where James Earl Ray got the $50,000 he was found with when he was captured in England. I'm not sure. Yeah, sorry. I'm not hip to that. Hot Indie Media. What's up? Good to see ya. We only have 10 years left to save the planet. I know. So why don't we use this time now to vote Green Party in 2020 to help build the infrastructure needed to build the People's Party in 2021. I hear ya. I hear ya. Sparky, what's up again, my friend? Deep State Dan's. That's funny. Deep State Dan's like retired, quote unquote, CIA agent Mike Baker make the rounds on talk shows and giving globalists intel limited hangouts. Great, Ron. Or is that your real name? Is Dan real and Ron's the character? I suppose we'll never know. But these days, all these retired intelligence agency specialists, they get gigs on news shows. They get gigs at MSNBC and CNN. Nace Garden, what's up, trendy? Guys, check out, again, triageoil.com. This is no longer us versus them. It's us versus the rising temperatures, hunger, and ignorance. Let's stop fighting and start gardening. Get your news on with Ron. Thank you very much for that, Trendy. I appreciate it. Sparky, maybe Lucy would be interested in Cool Cat Oscar. I think so. Brent, thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. And you say, Bourgeois, you rock. Nizer, you say, don't feel bad. You motivated me to Super Chat. Huck K5. Perfect. Huck K5. I love it. And Trendy. Wow. Just rewound and watched your endorsement. Thank you so much. You are very welcome, Trendy. You know, I love the oil. You know it. So Beth, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for bearing with me during the kind of tech hurdles we had to overcome today. I really appreciate it. And I can't wait. You said you're going to be getting a full setup soon. I can't wait to have you back on the show once you get that full setup. But in the meantime, where can people go? First of all, obviously, I can do this plug for you directly. They got to follow you on Twitter because you are among my favorite people on Twitter. And here's the best part. I'll let you give your plug, but then I got to thank you for this. You turned me on to maybe my favorite Twitter account. It's like my favorite Twitter account turned me on to my other favorite Twitter account. But where can people go to learn more about you?
Oh, well, you know, I have actually, I'm in between places, Ron. I had for a long while, I had WordPress happening, and I had a book out that I had an essay in called "But Did You Die?" It was just a funny book of, you know, being a parent on the outskirts. But you know, that's a while ago. I had several pieces published over several places. One of them was about oh, forget it. I'm not going to go into it. Let's put it this way. Since I was telling you about this a little bit before, I used to do completely satire and comedy writing. And since 2016, like the rest of the world, everything's kind of gone haywire. I've been hyper-focused on politics. So just enjoy my Twitter right now. And I know who you're talking about. You're talking about my buddy, Sir Michael. Well, you know, he and I have been having a 5-year-long Twitter feud. And I can't believe you would call my arch nemesis on Twitter your other favorite Twitter account. I'm hurt, Ron.
You guys got to battle for the gold star then. I'm sorry, because you're both so hilarious. And whenever I see both of your Twitter feeds, I am reminded, I am humbled and I'm motivated to work harder. And I mean that sincerely. Like I really do. Like, I'm not joking. You and Michael 1979 are probably, yeah, you guys are my two favorite Twitter accounts. Your back and forths make me so happy. And yeah, I know you're friends with that guy. And I know I've said it before. I freaking love that guy. Please let him know. I think he's so, I would love to have him on this show. I don't know if it would really be his thing, but it's brilliant stuff. And your guys' back and forth is so freaking great.
Well, thank you so much, Ron. I mean, you know, I'm a big fan of yours too. So it's wonderful to actually have a chance to finally talk to you. And yeah, you know, Sir Michael and I have been trying for a long time. Michael and I have been trying for a long time to do a show together or do something together. And it's hilarious because, as you know, we argue all the time on Twitter, just constant. And again, this has been going back 5 years. So we've been insulting each other on Twitter for 5 years now. And it gets so great, especially when people are so upset with one of us or the other. They don't understand it's a joke. And then Michael and I will send private messages to each other like, holy shit, so many people think this is real. You know? But anyway, yeah, I would love one time to have both of us on your show. Maybe in the fall, we can do that. And yeah, absolutely. I'll have a full setup, and, I can put books in the background to make it look I've read something, like the smart people do now, all the books behind them. I'm going to put a bunch of books back there and be like, I'm just going to go buy books for, my setup. Anything I can get my hands on, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to go to a yard sale and buy a bunch of books. And, I'm going to learn to read before that happens. So I have a lot to do, Ron. I have a lot to plate. Will you teach me to read, Ron? Will you do that? You're a teacher. Come on. Help a sister out. I don't know what I'm doing, man.
It'd be the blind leading the blind. I mean, I'll do my best, but I gotta learn first myself.
Okay, well, good luck. Maybe maybe we can both get hooked on phonics.
Is that still around?
Oh no, I don't even know how can that still be in my head? Like, I haven't seen that since I was probably 5 on television. Like, the Hooked on Phonics commercials.
I remember those. I mean, I was 5 too.
I know. I mean, Hooked on Phonics. Yeah. Well, there you go. We can. There's hope for us. There is hope for 2 idiots like us. We can get there.
We're doing Putin's bidding.
We are obviously so dumb. We have fallen for all of the Putin propaganda that we should have Medicare for all and free college and, a living wage. So, I just hope that, you can start watching Joy read and get your head right. That's my hope for you, Ron.
And you don't even have to read for that. You can just watch it. It's all there for you. Yeah.
I know, it's great. You can do your neck exercises and watch Rachel Maddow and Joy read. You see? I've got your evening planned for you. There you go. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for doing this show. Guys, follow Beth on Twitter at Bourgeois Alien. Her Twitter account is the best. It is so funny. DC, thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. Law fought the drugs, and the drugs won. Thank you, DC. Thank you, Nays. Thank you, Nizer. Thank you, Brent. Thank you, Sparky. Thank you, Nays again. Thank you, Sparky. Thank you, Hot Indie Media. Thank you, Sparky. Thank you, DC. And thank you, Hey Zeus. Thank you guys so much for your Super Chat contributions. You keep the show on the air. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same channel, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Follow Beth on Twitter at Bourgeois Alien. See you tomorrow. And in the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy says meow, and I say peace. Peace.